All right, let's jump right in. Today we are going on a hunt for a kind of thief. Now, this isn't someone who's after your wallet or your car. Nope. This thief steals something way, way more valuable. Your time, your energy, your potential. And the wild part? It lives inside your own head. So let's go unmask this guy, shall we?
So, I'm going to start with a question, and I want you to be really honest with yourself here. Just take a second. What comfortable lie are you living right now? Hmm? Is it about your job? Maybe your relationship? Your health? We all have one. It's that little story we tell ourselves that makes a really uncomfortable truth feel fine. But as we're about to find out, fine can be a very, very expensive word.
Okay, so let's put a name to this thief, denial. But I want you to totally forget the idea that denial is just some kind of weakness. Let's reframe it. Think of denial as a sophisticated internal con artist. Seriously, it's a master of illusion, a smooth talker inside your own skull that convinces you, day in and day out, to accept a really bad deal.
Now, what's so fascinating is that this con artist, it's rarely dramatic. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It's that little sigh of relief you feel when you avoid a tense conversation. It's the good reason you have for staying in a job you absolutely hate. And get this, our brains are actually wired to help it. Thanks to things like cognitive biases, we actively look for evidence that proves the con is right, which makes its job incredibly easy.
And this, right here, this is the heart of the con. This is the whole sleight of hand. It's the trade-off. It offers you the temporary comfort of an illusion, but in exchange for the long-term, deep pain of regret. It's like a payday loan for your emotions. You get a little relief right now, but the price you pay later is just enormous. It's a terrible deal, but one we make all the time without even thinking about it. So what does this con artist's handiwork actually look like out in the real world? Well, let's zoom in on two places where this thief operates with, frankly, devastating efficiency: our careers and our relationships. Okay, I want you to meet Emma. She's a super talented designer, but she's stuck in this prestigious but totally soul-crushing corporate job. And this sentence, this became her mantra, her daily lie. But you know how it goes. One more year somehow turned into 4 years of that Sunday night dread, that constant low-grade anxiety. Her body was screaming the truth at her, but the lie in her mind was just louder. For a while, anyway. So why? Why did Emma stay stuck for so long? Well, it comes down to these classic traps. First, you've got the golden handcuffs. That salary is just too good to walk away from. Then there's the sunk cost fallacy, the feeling that you've already put in so much time you can't possibly quit now. And the big one, identity fusion. This is where what you do becomes who you are. Leaving the job feels like you're losing yourself. These are the invisible prison bars that con artists builds around us. All right, now let's talk relationships. Meet Mark. Mark was head over heels for a partner who was, let's say, vibrant, but also really unpredictable. And whenever she'd forget his birthday or bail on plans at the last minute, he'd whisper this phrase to himself. This one little sentence gave him permission to ignore a huge, glaring truth. The relationship was completely on her terms, and it was just chipping away at his self-worth, piece by piece. And I love these terms for the warning signs. Mark's mind had become an excuse engine, constantly churning out reasons to justify her behavior. He had a bad case of selective amnesia, where he'd obsess over the 20% of good times to ignore the 80% of bad. And he was trapped in the peacekeeper paradox, where avoiding a fight felt way more important than actually solving the problem. Sound familiar to anyone? Okay, so we've unmasked the con artist, we've seen the damage. I know, it can feel a little heavy, right? But here is the good news. You can fight back. You can actually fire this internal con artist. So now we're going to pivot to the solution, your truth toolkit. And we've got 2 simple but really powerful tools you can start using today. First up, the Denial Detox Journal. Now, this is not a feelings diary, okay? Think of it more like a detective's notebook. It's super simple. At the end of the day, you just log the lie, write down the fib you told yourself, then you analyze the cost. What did believing that lie actually cost you in terms of stress or time or happiness? And finally, you state the counter-truth. You write down what's actually real. What this does is it makes the invisible visible. You stop being in denial and you start seeing it. Tool number 2 is the boundary blueprint. See, denial absolutely loves a vacuum. It rushes into any space where boundaries don't exist. So this tool is all about being proactive. You pick an area of your life, let's say work, you define your non-negotiables. For example, I will not answer work emails after 6 p.m. Then, and this is key, you literally script out the conversation for how you'll communicate that. Boundaries are maybe the ultimate act of self-respect, and they stop you from getting into situations where denial feels necessary in the first place.
So we have the tools. But, tools are pretty useless if you don't have the right mindset. This is not about magically becoming some perfect, fearless, truth-telling robot overnight. No, it's about something way more achievable and honestly, way more profound. It's about cultivating the courage to simply see.
I want you to really let this sink in for a second. Progress is not perfection. It is the courage to see. Living in your truth is a daily practice. Some days you're going to stumble. Those old, comfortable lies, they're going to sound really tempting. And you know what? That's okay. The goal isn't to be flawless. The goal is just to have the courage, even for a moment, to look at your reality without flinching. That moment, that's where all the power is. And so that brings us right back to where we started, with a question. But maybe now it lands a little differently, feels a little more urgent. What are you denying today? And I want you to ask yourself that with real curiosity, not with judgment. Because your next best chapter, the one that's written in the ink of your own courageous truth, it begins the very moment you decide to answer.